Yeah, Crutchett kind of touched on something that I think is pretty important that comes out pretty often in all the commentary about Sandy is returning to vintage Sandy or the Sandy of old. And I don't know what people mean when they say that, whether they think he's actually resembling a Cy Young winner or whether he's resembling his career averages or whether he's resembling the 2023 version of himself, which was a frustrating season for Sandy in 2023, where there was all these really random blow up innings. He was working deep into games and he was being efficient and he was throwing strikes, but he was getting hit a lot harder than usual. And like the overall numbers were fine. He was a good number 3 starter, maybe a low end number 2 starter under like regular circumstances, but it was nowhere close to who he was the year before. That 2022 season was such an outlier. I feel like not feel like I know that I've watched 99 point something percent of every pitch Sandy has thrown in the big leagues. And I have watched 100% of the pitches he's thrown this month. And this is not the Cy Young version of himself. Like there's very clear distinctions, even though the velocity is all there. And even though the ERA looks kind of similar to 2022, the swing and miss is still down considerably. His changeup, most specifically, is not close to the kind of pitch it was in 2022. That was a huge elevation for him, allowing him to get swings and misses a lot more against lefties. And a big issue he's still having this year, he does not get very much swing and miss at all. It's way below average, even most recently, compared to an average starting pitcher, in a way that I think really limits his ceiling. There's a reason why he's still not having a ton of success deep in the games the way that he did in 2022. And again, to Crutchick's point, I don't think that there is going to be that franchise changing haul out there unless something magically flips over this next month. It's not going to be simply continuing what he's been doing. You mentioned it, Kevin. He has not gone beyond 6 innings. That was the most extraordinary part about Sandy, is how he could work deep into games during that Cy Young season and get better as games went deeper in a totally anomalous way. And we've not seen that whatsoever this year. He is
pitcher.
Yeah, no at this point, at no Marlins pitcher, yeah. And at this point, it's just 5 starts left until the deadline for him to I don't think he's going to dramatically change people's perception of him in that way. He would still bring back a lot in return because it's a limited supply of even mid-rotation starters that are on the market during this deadline. That contract that he has is very team-friendly for most teams, not for the Marlins, but for most other teams. The salaries that he's locked into these next few years are very favorable. He'll still bring back a considerable amount in return that would help the farm system. To me, I continue to lean on the side of there's a scenario where it just makes a whole lot more sense to let this season play out and have him hope that he really takes off in the second half of the season. He has improved as this year has gone on. They could trade him, but I don't think he is the guy right now that teams are dying to have them lead them into the postseason and carry their team. He's not looking like an ace right now, even though the ERA has been good as of late. I say that as somebody that I feel like I have some authority just having watched this guy and looked at the numbers. It's even though it's trending in the right direction, they're really running out of time for him to flip the switch and be a true horse again right now. So I'm fascinated to see how this goes. Just to reiterate, because of the limited supply from other selling teams on the market, he might be the best pitcher available at this deadline. And we have seen in the past that there's a surprising amount of talent you could get back, even for very mid pitchers at the deadline every single year from contending teams. It's just that I think no matter how desperate other teams are watching him right now, they're not going to confuse him with the 2022 version of himself. So to me, when I see all this commentary about him getting back and closer to what he used to be, I think if he gets closer to that career average version of himself, or even the 2023 version of himself, that'd be reassuring just because of how bad April and May were for him heading into this. It's just, to me, it's still a long road back to it potentially being a true ace again. And there's still a question, and people don't want to think about this, but there's still like a question of if he's ever going to be a true ace again. There aren't very many guys that have careers like that, where they have multiple seasons where they're consensus one of the very best pitchers in the sport. It's a tricky situation. But I trust in his work ethic, and I think he'll continue improving as he gets further away from this injury. I'm just saying that I still see a pretty big gap between the peak version of himself and what he's been doing lately.
You think the Marlins would have to take on some of the money to trade him?
I mean, I guess it depends on which particular team. I think the contract is a positive though.
It is. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that you could take on depending on the situation. If you take on more money, you generally you do it because the other team is more willing to give you more talent back in return. So yeah, in the right situation, they should. We kind of gloss over this all season how little the Marlins are spending on payroll. They are going to line up to be dead last in all of baseball in spending this year. So once these rumors really heat up with Sandy, I think it is going to be worth reminding people that the Marlins should take on as much money as they possibly can in any type of deal because they're cheap enough as it is based on their current situation. And by taking up more money, if they're going to make some of these very divisive deals, then you need to get as much talent in return as you can. So that is something that there's no excuse for them not to eat as much money as possible if it comes to that.